Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Louis Sports Network. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday as we're winding down to the new year and we're ending 2024. Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, make sure your post notifications are turned on, make sure you're sharing on your social media platforms. Truly appreciate it. Hope everybody again is having a wonderful Monday. Thank you guys for always liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. Like I said, I truly appreciate it. Like I always say, without you guys, there is no me. So much respect to you guys. And like I said, I truly appreciate you guys, man, for sticking around while I've been doing these videos. So much love, power, and respect to you guys. Now, on to the video. So the last video that I had made had pertained to Isiah Thomas and the Bell's palsy that he has been diagnosed with. And like, while I do also say that I send my prayers to Isiah, hopefully that he makes a speedy recovery, I know that Bell's palsy is something that could be, I don't think it can be cured from what I know, but I also know that it can be treated. So I hope that Isiah is, like I said, able to make a recovery. But the reason that I'm making this video is because for some reason, Isiah just cannot keep MJ's name out of his mouth, no matter what. MJ honestly is just not paying any mind to Isiah Thomas. And I feel like the last dance has really just happened to get Isiah to just open up and just unload on Michael Jordan, just to be able to talk up just about anything. Because if you guys remember, Isiah Thomas said that Scottie Pippen was absolutely nothing to him, since he felt like he was not a superstar to be able to say on who and who does not belong on the Dream Team. Because as you guys know, Isiah Thomas was snubbed off the chance to be on the 92 Dream Team that featured 10 of 11 Hall of Famers in NBA history. And we may not see possibly another collection of great all-time players that are in the Hall of Fame like that again. And no, don't get me wrong. The 2008 Redeem Team was pretty good. The 2012 team was pretty good as well. But the Dream Team is often talked about as the trendsetters, like the first ones. And if you look who was on that team, you have Malone and Stockton, you have Barkley, you have David Robinson, you have Patrick Ewing, you have Chris Mullin, you have Magic, you had Bird, you had Jordan, you had Drexler, you had Pippen, Christian Laettner being the 12th guy on the team. But it was a truly special team. Now, getting back to what I was saying, well, Isiah Thomas has gone on and he has mentioned about how, according to him, Michael Jordan is the reason that players are so friendly today in today's modern era as to why they do handshakes and they do hugs and all that stuff. Now, Isiah Thomas is on record as using the Boston Celtics as a reason why he didn't shake hands with the Boston Celtics, because they didn't shake his hand when they beat them. Now, if you watch the video, I remember when Boston lost in 1988 in Game 6 in Detroit. They walked off the court while the fans stormed on when the Pistons went to the NBA Finals. Now, Isiah's been using that excuse for years as a reason as to why he didn't shake him, nor several Detroit Piston players didn't shake the Bulls' hand. If you guys remember, Michael Jordan, it was killing him inside that he had lost to Detroit 3 years straight, from 88 to 90. But Michael Jordan went out of his way to shake the Pistons' hand as for respect. He may not have liked their dirty tactics, but he still shook their hand in defeat. And for some reason, guys who don't like Michael Jordan have gone on to be like, well, Jordan cried to the league about the flagrant foul rule and how he cried that the Pistons would just beat him up. I said, maybe Jordan was crying inside, but Jordan still took it to the Pistons and Jordan shook their hand in defeat. That was a sign of respect. Even if Jordan did not like the way that they were physically mauling him, he still shook their hands out of respect, because Bill Laimbeer doesn't like Michael Jordan, and it's clear that Isiah doesn't like Michael Jordan. And where does that hate stem from? Since he used the whole handshake. If you remember, in 1991, I know the Pistons had some injuries, and the Pistons only won 50 games that year, because the previous year they won 59, and the previous year before that they had the best record in the NBA with 63 wins in 89. They had lost Rick Mahorn to the expansion draft, but they still won the championship. See, what people have done is they make it seem like if Detroit didn't win the championship the very next year, I said the Pistons still won the championship the very next year. And the Bulls showed improvement. In 88, they lost in 5 games. In 89, they took the Pistons to 6 games, despite the fact that the Pistons won 63 games and the Bulls won 47. So the Bulls were underdogs. In 1990, the Bulls showed some growth. They won 8 more wins. They had 8 more wins and took the Pistons to 7 games. In a game 7 where Jordan scored 31 points on 27 shots. He was really their only bright spot. Scottie Pippen played 42 minutes and went 1 for 10 with the migraine. And the Bulls as a team missed 46 out of a possible 57 shots. They went 11 for 57. So that's something that doesn't get talked about. So despite the blowout, and despite how physically the Pistons were beating up on MJ still shook their hands as a sign of respect. And even if, like I said, Jordan wants to feel bitter, he wants to feel sorry, and he did not like the way the Pistons were physically mauling him, he still shook their hands, and several of the Bull players did too. Now, mind you, 1991, the Dream Team was getting ready to get selected, I think, around September of that year, and Jordan had no intentions of playing on the Dream Team unless if several guys were going to be on the team. Isiah Thomas decides to walk out on Jordan because he was a sore loser. The Pistons were, some of the Pistons, not all of the Pistons, because John Sally, Joe Dumars, James Edwards, and Vinnie Johnson shook the Bulls' hands. But Isiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. Several of them couldn't do it. So he walked out with 7/10 and 9 seconds before the game was over, and Isiah couldn't even look in the direction of Michael Jordan. He ducked his head, and it's all on tape. But Isiah Thomas has been using the excuse of the Boston Celtics. I said, if Michael Jordan never had shook your hands or several of the Bulls players, you would have been totally valid with that argument. And Joe Dumars was on the Odd Couple a couple of years ago, and he said he shook Jordan's hands because it was a sign of respect. He said that's something that you thought that you would do normally when when you lose. It's because you respect them because they was able to move on. And again, Isiah Thomas and the Pistons realized they couldn't get to the Bulls mentally in 1991 at that point. The Bulls were able to play through their system, and no matter how physical Detroit got, no matter how dirty they got, because even with that whole flagrant foul rule, the Pistons were still playing the same way to see if they can mentally get to the Chicago Bulls. And at that point, they could not do that, and the Bulls were able to move on. Another thing that's got Isiah bitter is the fact that the Bulls won 6 titles in 8 years. Jordan and the Bulls dominated the 90s for the most part. And Isiah Thomas is hurt that Jordan is not from Chicago, but the fact that Jordan is a franchise player in Chicago, Jordan was able to lead the Bulls along with Scottie Pippen, Phil Jackson, and the rest of the Bulls. 2 different rosters, but they were able to win. But Jordan, Pippen, and Phil were there for all 6. For all 6 championships on 2 different teams in the 90s. And it hurts Isiah because the Pistons were the middleman to the ending of the Laker dynasty, the ending of the Lakers and the Celtics, and then the coming of the Chicago Bulls. And Isiah feels that they've kind of been more forgotten, which is why he shows his disdain for Jordan. He says a lot of things. He said a lot. And it's funny because Isaiah's on record as saying that Jordan is the greatest player of all time. I remember he said nothing but good things about Jordan in the late 80s and the 90s. And he's like, man, do you see him? And I said, yeah, it's easy to say that when you're winning against him and you're a champion. You can say all those things. But then the minute you lose, you want to be a sore loser. And you can't even look Jordan in the face and you walked off. See, because apparently he used the moniker of, well, Michael Jordan complained about how the Pistons were bad for basketball and all that kind of stuff. I said, you guys almost ended his career on multiple occasions. And I said, okay, he shook your hand, but because he says that all of a sudden, like, oh, because he said that, we're not going to shake hands all of a sudden. You were the leader of the Bad Boy Pistons, Isiah. You said you embraced the role of being the villain and being the Oakland Raiders. And I said this multiple times on Isiah Thomas videos. You cannot embrace being the villain and then want to play the victim when things go wrong. See, and that's what Isiah Thomas did. So now he's gone on full rant ever since apparently things were okay before the last dance, because Isiah Thomas has gone on to say, Michael Jordan and I, we've had several good talks, and he was really nice to my kids and all that kind of stuff, like when he coached the All-Star, like he said all these things. And then Michael Jordan decided to do the whole last dance, and because he said what he said about how much Isiah was an a-hole, not that Jordan isn't one, Isiah Thomas has gone on to say how, Scottie Pippen has meant so much to the Chicago Bulls. Jordan wouldn't have won without Pippen, and Jordan was losing, and he was in sixth place, and he didn't get to dominate until that was gone. And I've heard some of LeBron fanboys just continue to use that on how, he didn't beat the Pistons until he got old, or we beat Kareem. And I was like, well, I said, you beat Kareem when he was old, but now it doesn't apply to Michael Jordan because Kareem was no longer there. I said, but Kareem's production in his last 2 years weren't great, and you got to win the '89 series. And remember, Magic Johnson got hurt in Game 2. Now, I still felt that you guys would have won the series, but Magic Johnson was hurt in Game 2, and he really couldn't move in Game 3, like with the pulled hamstring. So it was over. And even though Rick Mahorn was pushed to the expansion draft, you guys were still able to win the championship the very next year. So it really wasn't much. And then all of a sudden you guys got old in 1 year to where you lost to the Chicago Bulls. It's like, that's the problem. It's like you want your credit, but you can't give the credit right back to the team that beat you. Because again, the Bulls were on the come up, just like you guys were on the come up against the Boston Celtics. And then you want to say how the Boston Celtics and Kevin McHale and Larry Bird, they were such great teachers and all this and all this and all that. But then it's like you use them as an excuse as to why you didn't shake the Bulls' hand. Again, if Michael would have did not shake your hand, you could have used that excuse. But now you want to use something back in 1991 to be the standard for what has been happening in the 2010s and beyond during the LeBron, KD, and Steph era. I don't understand it. And it's like your bitterness shows, because now I don't blame you for the freeze out game. That I blame Dr. J, because if you guys watch that game and watch that game again, Isiah Thomas was actually passing the ball to Jordan. Look at the way Dr. J played. Dr. J did not pass the ball at all to Michael Jordan in that entire game, and I saw it. So I don't think the freeze out was on Isiah, but I know Isiah is bitter with the fact that Jordan is not from Chicago. He was born in Brooklyn, raised in Wilmington, North Carolina. Isiah is actually from the south side of Chicago. And Isiah is upset that his family cheers for Jordan. The fact that Isiah cannot be Chicago. I'm like, okay, it's unfortunate that Jordan won 6 championships in Chicago, and you were looked at as a villain playing for Detroit, even though you're a Chi-Town native. But again, Chicago recognizes you as one of the best players to ever come out of Chicago. It's just you can't stand the fact that Jordan won 6 championships and the crowd reveres Jordan the way they do. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way the cards have been dealt, Isiah Thomas, because I also know you were trying to get to Chicago during the '81 draft. I know. But it's like you've said things about Jordan. It's like you can't keep his name out your mouth. You blame him for the handshakes. You blame him for stumbling off the dream team. Well, mind you, when you set a reputation so bad that a lot of players in the league didn't want you on there were quite a few players. Remember, look at the comments that you said about Magic Johnson and about his sexuality. Mind you, you were kissing him on the cheek during the NBA Finals. Did you forget that too? But you wanna say that, Michael Jordan, with the things that he said, and stop lying this, and like I said, I agree with you on the freeze out, but like I said, I know your deep jealousy is the fact that Jordan is forever going to be revered in Chicago in a way that you're not going to be. That's where all of this stems from. So you've gone out. They're like, oh, well, people ask them the questions. And I said, I'm pretty sure that you want them to ask those questions. to make sure that you want Jordan to come out and apologize. And I said, Jordan's not going to do that. So you can go on TV and you can act like a narcissist. You can act like a child. Jordan is not going to apologize to you. He's just not. You have to let it go, Isiah. Jordan has not mentioned you since The Last Dance. He's just living his life. That's it. And I said, you need to move on and do that too. I want to recognize you as, again, I said that you and Jordan changed the paradigm in winning. You're the greatest little man to win back-to-back championships. I mean, you set the record for highest field goal percentage from the three-point line in NBA Finals history, 75% while winning Finals MVP. Michael Jordan is the first player to lead the league in scoring and win an NBA championship, and he did it 6 times. But I think it's those accomplishments by Jordan is what's got you even more bitter. So like I said, you and Joe Dumars set the standard, and Jordan was able to follow suit. But because Jordan will ever, forever be linked to Chicago with the winning, when the Bulls had no winning history, the Chicago Bulls, they won their first championship in their 25-year history. I know you wanted to have that accolade, Isiah Thomas. I know. But the thing is, you've gone on to spread lies and you've gone on to make narratives about Michael Jordan. You need to stop the cap, Isiah, and you need to let it go. Okay, you have Bell's palsy, and I'm sorry that you're going through that health-wise. I said, but the thing is also, it's not healthy that you're having this jealousy and continuously talking about Michael in the way you do. It's not healthy for you, man. It's not healthy. You say that Jordan didn't beat the Lakers with because Kareem wasn't there. I was like, but you beat Kareem when he was 41, 42 years old. Is it really that much of a difference, Isiah? Like, honestly, really think you didn't beat Kareem in his prime. If Jordan would have beat Kareem, then it's like, okay, well, Isiah gets credit for beating Kareem, but Jordan doesn't, all because people are tired of quote unquote Jordan is nothing but a myth and nothing but Nike. I was like, Nike would not be where they are without Jordan. They're a global phenomenon and have been able to extend to other sports because of Michael Jordan. That's the point. So Isiah, all this bitterness that you're talking about and all this thing about how Michael Jordan is this and Michael Jordan is that and Jordan wouldn't have done this without Scottie Pippen. This is the same Scottie Pippen who you disrespected. But you want to elevate him now to this because of your deep hatred and jealousy for Michael Jordan. John Sally already said that your jealousy stems from the fact that your own family cheered for the Bulls, wore Jordan jerseys, and they looked at him rather more than you. Isiah, you're always going to be their family, but they're from Chicago. If anything, you got to get on the Chicago Bulls for not drafting you, if you want to be the truth. Or why didn't you try to do your very best to get to the Chicago Bulls? I mean, that's it. That's all you had to do, but it was all competitiveness. And then it's like you want to say, I can give you beating Larry Bird. You almost beat Magic. But you also beat, so the thing is, if Michael Jordan defeated you guys when you got old, then you beat an injured Magic Johnson, you beat a old Kareem. So take a look at it that way. So Isiah, you got to stop crying and you need to let it go. It's no matter what, Jordan's not going to look into your direction, and you cannot change history. You guys have tried to paint a narrative. You guys have done a lot of what ifs. We have to do with what the facts are. The facts are Jordan won 6 championships and 6 Finals MVPs as a Chicago Bull in 13 full seasons in Chicago. And it has you bitter because you want that same recognition that Jordan has had throughout his career. And you said Jordan was the greatest of all time in the 1998 NBA Finals. It's on tape. But now, because of The Last Dance, my thing is, I felt like you have felt this way for a long time. It's just, again, you have just come out and said it. Jordan gave you the green light now with The Last Dance. Jordan gave you the opportunity to go on podcasts, to be able to express your opinion on how you really feel about Michael Jordan. Like I said, you don't have to bow down. You don't have to kiss his feet or anything like that. But Jordan said in his opinion, you're the second greatest point guard behind Magic Johnson, even though he doesn't like you. But you've gone out of your way to make sure that Jordan gets no credit. And Jordan is on record saying that the Pistons helped him and the Bulls become who they were. He has said that. But here you are doing, according to you, God's work, and according to some Isiah Thomas fans, God's work, and then according to the LeBron fanboys, God's work, and for people who don't like Michael Jordan, God's work. But it's not, because you're holding on to a beef that, let's face it, you'll take it to your grave, and I'm pretty sure Michael Jordan's going to take it too. I mean, look, Scottie Pippen tried it, and look, he tried to sell a book, and look, has anybody really talked about it ever since? No. Because it was all for publicity and narratives, just to think. Because the thing is, Jordan knows the game. If he comes out and goes to back and forth, it gives him the content. That's what it is. So Isiah, for your own health, at 63 years old, let it go. Just let it go. I know you can't let it go, but like I said, it'll do you good if we recognize your 12 All-Stars, 9,000 assists, one of the greatest point guards of all time. And some people will put him as the highest, man. But again, Jordan is a global phenomenon that's never going to be erased, no matter what. The media is the reason why Jordan will forever be remembered too. That's just it. So Isiah Thomas, I know your deep jealousy, it's always been there. It's just the Last Dance gave you the green light to go on podcasts and talk about it. That's all it is. But Jordan is the GOAT, and you know it. That's why you've been doing a lot of what ifs over the years with disrespecting your own team, despite the fact that you even said that your Detroit Pistons would do great in today's era. But remember, you said that Jordan didn't really play anybody. You try to downplay and then uplift at the same time, which means you're contradicting yourself, Isiah Thomas. And the 80s and 90s are filled with all-time great players and really good players that played in that era. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, there's your boy Louis with another one. Sorry I had to do it. Had to do a long video, but I just had to do it that way just so that we get the full gist. But anyway, let me know what you guys think, man. Bless up, live, laugh, love. Thank you guys for watching.